Well, hello everyone. It's now over to me, a new face for this next section. I just want to say a huge thanks to all the community researchers that we've seen in that film. Just there, just a few bits of reflection from me, just some words that I'd written down when I was watching it. Is that sense of that equality, equal partners in the evaluation, and genuinely equal partners, and you can really truly see that from that film. The mutual respect in the room for each other, the laughter, how relaxed they are as a group of people, and you can see the relationship that we've all had with each other and how that's played to their strengths and been really strong in terms of the work that they've done. The diversity of the group as well, and what Alan said is, how that's been really important, but also not just to the evaluation, but to the group as individual community researchers as well, and learning about the different groups and the impact that the work has had. And also that they've grown together and they've evolved together, and now are seeking out new opportunities to take forward their learning and lots of skills and experience that they've developed. So a huge thanks to them all. I know that some of them are watching today in Stirling University as a group, so I'll say hello to them all. They've really brought so much to the evaluation, and I know, having spoken to many of them very recently, how much they've valued being part of the work and the opportunity to really enhance their skills and extend their involvement even further. I know for Myra, especially having been with the Trust from those early development stages, it's been quite special for her to have been with us at the start and now towards the ends, and to really have come full circle on our journey. And so before I go on to the next section, I better introduce myself as well. My name's Arlene Crockett, and I am the joint CEO along with Carol, and I'm the director of the dementia programme here at the Life Changes Trust. So as many of you know, the evaluation report was published a few weeks ago, around the same time as both programmes were hosting their final legacy events. So through these events, and also from speaking with people about the report, there seemed to be some thematic questions that were coming through that people were commonly asking. So to answer some of those questions, I'm going to ask Louise McCabe from Stirling University to come back and join me, along with Annette Tait, who was one of those fabulous community researchers that you saw in the film, and who's been involved with the Trust for many years now as part of our work with unpaid carers, and she might mention that, I'm sure, on the dementia programme and many, many other things. She's a very busy woman. So welcome, Louise and Annette, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Arlene.
Thanks, Arlene.
Okay, so like Carol had with Alison, I've now got a few questions to ask you. So Louise, I'm going to kick off with you. So when you first saw that the Trust were looking for an independent evaluation, and in quite a significant scale, as you've already touched on in your opening presentation, what excited you about the project, and what made you want to take it on?
I mean, I knew about the Trust at the time when the evaluation was put out to tender. So I knew about the work that you were doing, particularly from the dementia side. I hadn't had any involvement prior to that with young people with care experience. So that was, I guess, one of the things that interested me, was to do a project where it kind of took me outside my normal frame of work. I was excited with the opportunity to do some co-production work, to bring in the community researchers, and it was, very clear that was going to be a part of the project. It looked a bit of a challenge, so I quite like that. And I also enjoy kind of bringing things together. So I like the mixed methods, the fact that we would be doing a whole range of types of evaluative research. So I kind of relish the idea of how you kind of find your way through these complicated sets of data. So yeah, it was an easy choice for me to apply.
Good, glad to hear it. And as Alison said, it's been an enormous piece of work, but we can't thank the staff enough for for what they have produced in terms of the report and all the other outputs in terms of learning, because it really is pretty powerful stuff and really will support a lot of the legacy work moving forward. So staying with you, Louise, and this has been touched on, I suppose, by Alison in her remarks, and also Alexis as well, is obviously the Trust has two main programmes of work, the dementia programme and the Younger People with Care Experience programme. And we have always been asked about that. Carol mentioned that too, about the synergy between the two. And I suppose Alison's, as I say, has touched a bit on that in terms of surprises around the report and the learning. But can you tell us a wee bit about what the evaluation told us about that synergy in relation to, you know, similar gaps and thinking about inclusion, empowerment, etc. So can you explain a wee bit more about that synergy?
So I suppose maybe similarly to Alison, I think when we went in, we had a kind of, I remember someone at a meeting saying, well, you know, young people are at the beginning of their lives, they're concerned with employment, with skills, with education, you know, it's whereas older people with dementia or younger people with dementia, it's they're a different point in their life, and perhaps they've got kind of different needs or different wishes. And I think what I hope comes through really strongly in the report, that there was a lot of shared feelings between the groups, a lot of shared wishes, a lot of shared values. You know, there was this shared drive to challenge stigma, to, you know, stand up and be a part of something, to share messages, to develop skills and knowledge, to become leaders, you know, to have a meaningful contribution, to be able to be part of life, you know, whatever stage of life you're at, being able to still belong somewhere, have a feeling of belonging, but also a feeling that you meaningfully contribute and that you're, you know, you're a part of life. So those kind of, you know, underlying more emotional, personal aspects, I think really resonate across the groups, and I hope that came out strongly in the report.
I think it definitely did, and at the end of the day, I suppose it's about people at the end of the day, regardless of, you know, what their background is, where they've come from, what their experiences are. It's about taking that real essence of individuals and then building and developing that. And I think what you could see from the community researchers film in particular is the strength of that relationship, and you know, and how it's been really important to bring those groups of people together, because they've learned from each other, they've developed alongside each other, and will now go off and influence either collectively or individually within their own sectors or their own communities. So it's brilliant to see that development. So thank you. So one of the key thrusts, Louise, of the evaluation was to the extent to which the Trust had met its aims, so sustainable and transformational change. So it's the $1 million question, but I have it here to ask you, so I'll apologise in advance. But what did you find?
Fine. So I'm going to read out from the Deed of Trust, which was what was, you know, there at the very start of Life Changes Trust. So apologies for reading this off my piece of paper, but the aim of the Trust was to have substantial and lasting impact and achieve long-term transformational change for two groups of young and older people in greatest needs. It will have the overall purpose of helping to improve individual lives. So we pull out some of the key words. So substantial is the first word. And I think, you know, I think that one is easy to support. We can see the reach of the Trust, we can see the number of projects, we can see the huge number of people that have been engaged with or in some way touched by the Trust. You know, there's reach across Scotland in rural areas, urban areas, you know, so I think that the notion of it being substantial is quite straightforward to kind of say, yes, you've done that. Lasting, so this is the notion of legacy. So we can see that in the legacy projects, but we, you know, and they will continue for years, and hopefully we'll continue to build that legacy and to share that legacy. But we could see it in all the organisations that work with the Trust, whether they had funding or were engaged in events, you know, the way that they're picking up different ways of working, new ideas, different ways of talking. We can see it in policy, you know, coming through strongly at local level and starting to influence at national level. So the notion of lasting, I think is there. You know, we don't know, we can't tell. We will have to come back in another 10 years and check, but you know, it's looking good. The notion of transformational change is very interesting, and We have a PhD student working on the project who hasn't finished yet, and her whole focus is on what do we mean by transformational, what do young people mean. She's particularly focusing on that programme. So maybe I'll wait and I'll let you know what she finds. But I think transformational means so many different things, doesn't it, for different people? So I think we could see individual lives transformed, absolutely. You know, we just have to think of Carol and Malcolm in the film, you know, and the transformation that they had seen. But we're also seeing transformation at, you know, kind of organisational levels and above. And then the very last bit is to help improve individual lives, you know, so that's always been the, you know, the core purpose. And I think, you know, we see that again and again and again across, whether it was our data, whether it was in a report, you know, whether it was at an event, we were listening to somebody speak. So yes, I just say yes.
Yeah, and thanks for articulating it in that way, because it's really good to bring us back to the original, to the trust deed and what the trust was set out to achieve, if you like, and to kind of bring the evaluation back to that and to reference that. I think it's been really helpful, and we still have a wait and see moment to see what happens with the PhD study. But yeah, thanks Louise for articulating it so well, so thank you. So Annette, over to you. We've left you there. So obviously you're one of our fantastic community researchers on the project, and it is something I'm sure Louise has been asked about, and we've been asked about a lot in the work that we do, is why use community researchers. So first of all, as a community researcher and as a really good friend to the Trust, what attracted you to the project?
Well, like you said, Arlene, I've been involved with the Trust. It started about 5 years ago when I was in the group that set up and ran the first By Carers for Carers dementia conference down in Glasgow. And since then, which was an amazing experience, and since then I've attended events, I've done peer support work, and found out a lot more about the projects that the Trust's supported in and around Aberdeen area. Which is, again, the impact they've made there has been amazing. So when I found out about being a community researcher, I thought it'd be good to know if they've had a similar impact around other parts of Scotland and what the legacy would be. So I just thought, right, this is the way to do it. This is the way to find out. So yeah, I was glad to be part of the team.
Great. And yeah, you've been with us for a long time, and many various projects, Annette, which we hugely appreciate. So you were a well-known face to the Trust, that's for sure. So it was good to see you getting involved in something else and supporting us to end well and bring the work of the Trust to a close. So thank you for that.
I'm really, really pleased to be able to do it. So yeah.
Thank you. So as a community researcher, what has been your biggest learning curve, and also what's given you the most satisfaction?
Well, I mean, for me, I knew little, if anything, about the Young People Care Experience programme because I'd always been focused on the dementia side of the Trust's work. So that was a huge learning curve. It was different terminology, Champions Board, what on earth is a Champions Board? But because I was part of the team, the rest of the team, you know, it was so easy to ask questions, get support, and so it turned out not to be a problem at all. It was just part of the whole process. The things I enjoyed, I think it was the interviews probably more than anything, especially the ones with beneficiaries, because you really got the sense from them about what the difference the Trust has made to these people, especially some of the smaller projects, because I don't think we can appreciate the effects that smaller projects have and the ripple effects. And when there was one project, I think it was Frog Life down in Glasgow, they had encouraging people to get out and enjoy nature. And since then, they've expanded that into care homes and community groups. And it's really hard to quantify the ripple effects, but I think they're just as important, if not more important, in reducing stigma, supporting people in all the three groups, and raising awareness. So I think that's an important part of the whole thing as well. And also being part of the team has been, really enjoyed it. We're trying to learn things, but it's been a great experience.
Yeah. And you could see that in the film, the relationship between you all you know, Louise and Sarah and then you guys as community researchers was just really, really lovely to watch. So yeah, you could see how close you all were. So I'm not going to, there was another question I was going to ask you both, but we're kind of pressed for time. So Louise, I'm going to end with you and just ask you what your biggest takeaway headline from the final result of the evaluation is that's applicable to projects, to decision makers and funders alike. So the biggest takeaway headline, you think?
And this is a nearly impossible question, but I'm going to go with...
Don't make it easy.
I mean, I could just say valuing people and investing in people, you know, that would be the simplest. But I think it's this partnership, this co-production, this participatory approach, but understanding the investment that you need for that you know, that there's time and effort involved in, but that when you do things in this way, you know, you absolutely reap the benefits, and you know, and you end up with the kind of impact and change that you're looking to create. So yeah, investing in people and relationships, and yeah, is that.
Thanks very much, Louise. I'm sorry to put the pressure on. So thank you both so much. We could spend a long time talking about this, but unfortunately we don't have that. So thanks for joining me. We really appreciate your time, and Annette, you especially, and all those community researchers that I know that are watching from Stirling, and those others that couldn't make it that are watching or will catch up later on. Just thank you for everything that you brought to the evaluation. Because it's just been fantastic. So I'll let you both go now, and I'm now going to hand back over to Alexis. Thanks, everyone.